I call to order this regular meeting of the Township Committee of the Township of Morris this Wednesday, July 19th, 2023. The time is now 7 p.m. This meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, and adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as required by law. Specifically, notice of this meeting was emailed to the Daily Record and Morris Newsbee on January 5th, 2023, and posted to the Township of Morris website. The agenda and resolutions for the meeting are available on www.morristwp.com under the Agenda Center. Certain portions of this meeting may be closed to the public for the purpose of personnel and/or other matters as outlined in the Sunshine Law. Notice to members of the governing body and township staff, any use of electronic devices during this meeting shall be used solely for the purposes of township business, and any communications are subject to the Open Public Records Act. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Grayzel.
Here.
Ms. Guariglia.
Here.
Mr. Ravitz.
Here.
Ms. Wilson.
Here.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Here. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We will move into the approval of the minutes for our May 17th meeting, closed and regular. Do I have a motion to approve last month May's meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next is our first public comment and inquiry period, which we have 5 minutes afforded per speaker. We have currently one member of the public on Zoom and several in here in person. At this time, we'll open to the public comment. Please raise your hand virtually on Zoom to indicate you would like to speak. Please state your name and address for the record before speaking, and note that comments are limited to 5 minutes. Is there a motion to open the first public portion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any members?
Mayor, how many were online?
One.
Just one.
Any member of the public wishing to comment or question anything yet? Seeing none, is there a motion to close the public portion?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we will now move into our presentation for the 2022 audit by Valerie Dolan, partner from NISIVOCCIA. We're always happy to have Valerie with us, who's worked really well with the township for many, many years. You can come sit up here, it'll be a lot easier. Yeah, Valerie's provided a great service to Tim and Fran over the years, working on the budget with us, and we really appreciate you coming in. So I'll turn it over to you, Valerie.
Is it on, or do I have to press the button?
It's on.
I should be on.
Green light's on, you're good to go.
My green light, it's red, so.
It's green.
No, no, no.
I'm sorry,
Oh, now you turned it on.
Is it on?
Now you're on.
Okay, perfect. Okay, there was my 5 minutes.
You're done.
I'm done. So yes, like I said, once again, it was a pleasure to be back to do the audit for Morris Township. I just want to give you a few financial highlights. The current fund balance is a little over $11 million, which is an increase of about $180,000 from where you were last year. Your fund balance in the sewer utility did decrease about $350,000, but that decrease was really correlated directly to the reduction in connection fees. You had a couple of years of large connection fees that this year did not occur. And as for the parking and the pool, they pretty much are holding their own and are slowly on the rebound from what they were impacted to the COVID pandemic. And you have emergencies that you had passed during the pandemic, and next year during this current year of 23, you'll be paying off those final payments on those emergencies that held those together during the pandemic. As for debt, there is about little over $12.8 million in general capital, which is all comprised of serial bonds with a final maturity of 2029. Your sewer utility debt is about $8.4 million, which is comprised of sewer bonds and NJEIT loans, and those will mature between 2034 and 2032. Your pool capital debt is a little over $1.6 million, which was maturing in 2026. And lastly, your parking lot has $70,000 left in debt, which will mature for you in 2024. Like I said, those are major numbers. There's really nothing that I'm thrilled to say that this report also has absolutely no comments and no recommendations. Therefore, no corrective action plan is here tonight. We do have a few items that we do like to highlight that are called suggestions to management. These are areas that we feel are either going to be future problems, not necessarily for Morris Township, but for municipalities in New Jersey, and things that we do want to see looked at. You do have several capital ordinances that are greater than 5 years. Usually 5 years is your benchmark. It's one of those items that Fran will clean up before she leaves and make sure that you're in good shape going forward. Lovely world of accounting. We can't get through our lives without new standards. So there will be a new standard. It's actually a complicated standard. It's related to subscription-based disclosures. So all of your software, everything you have has a subscription. You pay a user fee, you pay, and so we're going to have to keep an accounting now of all those subscription-based revenue, all those subscriptions. What's easier for the municipalities is your non-GAAP, which means it's footnote disclosure only. For the schools, it's GAAP, it's in their financials. So it's a little easier for implementation for municipalities. We will stay tuned. We will provide all guidance for that application. And then lastly, as you all know, you have a large number of federal funds that have come through the pandemic. I come through and I do my audit, but the auditor, the federal government reserves the right at any time to come in and do their audit. They do bench reviews, they do questionnaire reviews. So just be on the lookout. It's possible they could come in. Fortunately for you, you have a simple, easy task that you're spending your federal funds on. So it's an easy audit. They might leave you alone, but they might come in and ask for just the purchase orders again. So we just advise to be careful and cautious as you're spending them. And then, as I said, I'd like to take the opportunity to say thank you. And I know she's not here tonight. Fran, this is my last audit with Fran as she's getting ready to retire. We can't thank her enough for all of the dedication. She's always helped us. So we are going to sorely miss her as our primary contact. And I just want to say thank you to her on the record.
Thank you, Valerie. And before I go to questions to the committee, I just want to comment to your point on the federal dollars and the use of the ARP money that we did. I think as the committee agrees too, I think that other towns have really used that money to kind of plug their budgets to try to keep their tax rates flat, but we really made an emphasis, almost a requirement to just use it strictly for capital purposes, which were investments that otherwise we wouldn't be able to afford. And this way we did not really mess with our tax base this year. And I think there's a lot of towns near us who have had
I had
issues
several
this year.
municipalities that have balanced budgets for the last 2 years with those federal funds and are going to scramble next year.
Yeah.
When those funds are no longer available. So using it for capital was always our advice. And I'm happy to say that you did use it for capital because there's always improvements. We always say there's always a time when there's a wish list.
Right.
And it's great when federal dollars come forward. It's the best time to look at that wish list and say, hey, we can do these things that we really wanted to do.
Yep. Any questions from the committee? Mr. Quinn, if you want to go.
For the single audit for the grant funding coming in, is there any, I mean, do you just do the audit? Are we required to file with the federal government or anybody or DCA?
Well, because you'll spend dollars in 23, we will do a separate federal filing in addition to your month. You'll be required to do an annual report, which will be done. And then we will do a federal filing also of your audit next year.
So that'll
upon
be
completion.
after this fiscal year.
Upon completion of the expenses, because really at this point you hadn't spent them as of 22, you really spent those dollars in 23. So we will audit them in 23. We'll do what's called a single audit, which is a separate audit of the program and file our findings with the federal government separately.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Great. Mr. Grayzel.
I have a few questions. Hi, Valerie.
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
Thanks for your work.
Sure.
You said there are some ordinances that are longer than 5 years.
Yes.
How many of those do we have and what do they relate to?
I can pull them up if you give me 2 seconds. There's all of the ordinances are detailed in the audit itself, but mostly in the area, they're all just smaller, older ordinances. So some of them, like there's a larger one from, most of capital is from 21. So your general capital it's really in the utilities that you have an older ordinance. Because some of them, what happens is these ordinances, not only are they older, they're just not all the way, let's see, let me look at your water sewer.
Tim, do you know which ones?
Yeah, there's the ones in sewer from 2011 is really in the sewer projects. So those were some older sewer projects that just have to be cleaned up and closed out. So it's really in your sewer from 2011 and 2015. So they were sewer improvements.
And Tim, what did those relate to?
I have to go. I have to
We
go.
don't have them. I can provide Tim
I
with
can
the
pull
numbers
them.
to pull the actual ordinances. We just have them and just have
Yeah,
them as various
because I'm
sewer.
surprised something from,
Yeah,
something from 2011 is,
well,
really
we're
old.
working right now with Jim Slade and Fran to do a reappropriation.
To take those dollars
And reappropriate, and that those may be in what they're working at. I should
from the
have that.
conversation I had with Fran, yes, those are what they're doing is
Right.
instead of reauthorizing new money, they're going to take these projects, close them out and
Right.
roll them
Yeah.
forward so that you can use them
Yeah.
for
I-
current.
I
sewer
don't know
projects.
what the number is there, but it was around $500,000 that Fran and Jim had given me a number for the reappropriation.
Yep, they're coming probably from the 11, the 15 and the 16 ordinances.
Okay.
so there's nothing since 2016 that's longer than 5 years that you found?
There's some sewer equipment from 17 that has also probably is in Fran's, but then we go forward and it's mostly newer ordinances. So
Mhm.
so when Fran would probably have that exact information and can get you it
Mhm.
to see what she's going to reappropriate. And I believe when I talk to her, she's going to do the reappropriation and cancel anything that she's not reappropriating.
And why is 5 years considered best practice?
5 years
'Cause
is
if-
capital because that's the statute actually is the capital. When you do a capital ordinance, their life expectancy is 5 years is usually the project should be completed within 5 years. And if not completed, what we usually see is what is exactly happening is a reappropriation of those older ordinances into new ordinance. Sometimes it is the same project, just moving itself forward. But 5 years is usually the benchmark.
Because I can see some things like when we buy police cars, they have 5-year life, but
We don't
some,
do them we don't do those by.
oh yeah, okay, so that's not a good example, or maybe a
No.
piece of
Right.
equipment for DPW.
Right.
But, something for the sewer utility that's supposed to last, 15, 20 years.
Well, because
Is
usually you
that-
pass the ordinances not for the operations of the sewer, it's for
Right.
something specific that's happening, a plant update. Sometimes what happens with these ordinances is the costs come in lower than anticipated and they just need to be either closed out.
So A
and
lot of
that's what
times the
happens.
the balances of projects are completed, and now we have a balance of appropriated funds that either need to be
That need to
canceled
be
or
resolved so that we
appropriated.
can
Mhm.
move them forward.
Okay.
And do you have handy the general fund balance as a percent of, is it expenditures? We talked about having sticking to this 15%, right?
I don't have it off the top of my head.
All right,
Are you
this,
are you
but the
talking
governing
about-
bodies talked about having the fund balance as a certain percentage of our total budget, right?
Right, 15 to 20%.
Yeah, 15 to 20.
Yeah.
Of minus the reserve for uncollected taxes and the amount of money that we use for the.
And
for
you're
fund
right
balance.
about at that number.
So this year we were at 15.2 when we did the budget.
15.2%
Yeah.
Correct.
for this year, but she's auditing last year, right?
We would
Well,
have
I
been.
think it was higher.
It wasn't much higher.
Yeah,
was-
it
it
was
was
a
very-
little bit higher.
It was
but
very,
down.
it was very close to that 15%.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay,
you're right at that benchmark.
Right.
okay. And how does that compare to other towns?
That's
As a
fantastic-
percent?
Depends on the town, honestly. They're
there
all
t-
over since the pandemic, consistently 10 to 15 was the number we saw across the board in a lot of our municipalities. When the pandemic hit, everybody reacted differently. Everybody built budgets differently for the last couple of years. So we've got some as low as 2% because that's how they chose to do their budgeting, and some as high as 15 or held their own.
Mhm.
So it really depended on each individual municipality and how they chose to handle the
Right, but,
pandemic.
but before the pandemic even,
Before the
did anybody?
pandemic, between 10 to 15 was the norm for our
Okay.
clients.
So nobody went above 15.
No,
we're-
that's, well,
we're-
that's usually what the rating agencies are looking for.
Okay.
That's where
So
15 comes from because that's what the rating agencies are looking
that's
for.
my question is, we're just at the very highest end then.
You're at the highest end for
Yeah.
the rating agencies,
Okay.
yes.
Yep, Our policy calls for 15 to 20%.
Right.
But we're usually at 15%.
Yeah, the rating agencies used to
Right.
be higher, but with the pandemic, they've taken their numbers down a little bit.
Okay. And then you said for the sewer fund balance, it dropped compared to last year.
Correct. About
So I have
350,000.
a feeling I know the answer to this, but I'll ask the question so everybody knows. Did we use that to fund operations or for capital projects?
No, it came down because you had less revenue received in the current year, purely related to connection fees. So in previous years, you were receiving connection fees to your sewer program, to your sewer users, adding new users, about 400,000. This year, you only received revenue of about 180,000. So it was really revenue not
Right.
coming in. So that's why your fund
But-
balance is down, because your revenue, you were generating surplus in the utility off of connection fees.
But we don't have regular connection fees every year. They vary very much from year to
They
They
year.
vary from, and this
Very much
happens
from
to
year
be
to
a year that you had
I
low
don't know
connection
if
fees.
it's reflected in that though, but we also had revenue has been down on the commercial office side because it's based on water usage.
That's true too.
And with a lot of people with the dynamic changing with office space, people working from home, vacancy rates and everything else,
Correct.
we've seen
Your sewer
my-
collections and
my-
connections
are going down on commercial properties, certainly staying steady on residential properties because it's a fixed
Right.
number per residential property. But we've seen the reduction on what we're taking on the commercial side because less water usage.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's a good point, Tim. So for that sewer fund balance, again, as a percentage, what percent do you think we're at?
Of your budget expenses, your budget
Yeah.
expenses are about 9 million
Mhm.
and you're at 4 million. So you're about, so your sewer is still.
The
very
sewer
large.
fund balance
still-
is huge.
Your sewer fund balance is
It's
still
it's
doing
still
well.
it's still large.
Because
Okay.
your sewer has a lot of
Right,
capital
but-
costs.
But we're gonna need it for the big project
You're-
that's
Well,
coming
no,
up.
You're going to see that significantly reduced
Next year.
for next year's audit because we took a lot of that money for
Yes.
projects this year, including taking the additional money that we needed for that emergency.
For the emergency
for the
appropriation.
firefighter.
Yeah.
So this number
our-
will come down.
We choked on the sewer projects this year and we actually backed some of the sewer projects out because of the amount of fund balance we were going to have to use
Mhm.
and making sure we had enough on hand. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um,
And it's an example of why you need a healthy fund balance because we had an emergency and
Right.
we needed to lean on the fund balance.
And
Right.
that's exactly.
And that's exactly what
You
it,
have
that's
the fund
exactly,
balance and it's good to have to lean
Right.
on when you need it.
And- And as you know, the sewer utility has been debt-free since 2014.
Yes.
So we have not brought on any additional debt
Just paying off.
since then. So we paid as we go.
I just bring up the point because in years past, there has been some debate on this dais, not recently, but years past about how much fund balance we carried. And there's a reason for doing it. And
Right.
this is a good example of why, because we
And-
had an emergency and we had the money to fund it.
Correct. And
Yeah.
you're not utilizing those utilities, that utility surplus to
Right.
offset your taxes either.
Mhm.
There are municipalities that pull
Yes.
the utility surplus over to the current fund. You're not doing it. Yeah,
Well,
it's
that-
only a piece, right?
That actually leads
Yep.
leads into my very last question about other towns that have sewers
Mhm.
as part of their infrastructure. How many of them, maybe you know the answer, how many of them have a separate utility like we do? Is it usually a separate
It
utility
is
and
usually a
not?
separate utility. I only know of 2 that don't operate a separate utility
Mhm.
within our 90 client base.
Mhm.
We only have 2 that have utilities and offer sewers that don't run them through in a separate utility.
Mhm.
And, they're,
Yeah.
it just depends on the type of plant
Mhm.
is when it becomes successful. It's how the sewer plant is built
Mhm.
and how it was obtained is whether it can sustain itself in a utility. And honestly, a lot of municipalities are shifting to a 3rd utility this year for garbage collection.
Mhm. And I-
Because they can't afford the increases in garbage within the 2% levy caps. So we've seen a number of municipalities establish a garbage collection utility so that they can put those fees over
But
there
that's
and
based
charge
on a
them.
user fee for.
It's
private
based on a
contractor,
user fee versus the taxes.
where
So
we collect our own.
when you collect your own, so it's fortunate, but a lot of towns really felt that one that had gone outside for garbage because those contracts were 40-50% increases.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So
And I just to close out, I asked that last question so the public would understand that in other towns, they do pull from their sewer utility to fund their general budget. In this town, we don't work that way. The utility stands on its own. And it's good that it does because when there are emergency appropriations, they have the money to spend and we don't have to go back out to the public or go out to bond. So just
sometimes it happens and
Yeah.
that's why you want
So
you wanna be able to
the
hold on.
management of this town, thank you, Mr. Quinn, and thank you, Fran, is exemplary. And just the fact that there's no corrections, no suggestions
Yeah,
is just,
it's fantastic.
it's a testament to how our
For a
town is
town
run.
this size, honestly, to have no comments and recommendations is a fantastic.
Yeah, very good.
Not just 1 year for. free.
Not just one year.
Not
for
just
Fran.
1 year, yeah.
But I always look at the testament of how many entries and things of that we make, because if we have to come in and adjust all kinds of information, that meant you were making decisions all year long based off of entries, information that might not have been accurate.
Yeah.
We make so little we maybe make 1 or 2 quick adjustments to Fran's numbers, which gives me the piece to be able to tell you that every decision you made was off of sound financial records, which is huge for, I think.
And just one last reminder to the public, we haven't raised our sewer fees since
2008.
2008. We haven't raised our sewer fees when other towns have, and still our, our utilities on sound footing.
We need to have that discussion.
Yeah,
I spent a lot of money this year in sewer.
yeah,
Spent a
no,
lot of money. Maybe we'll see what
Yeah,
happens. Hopefully it'll recover.
good, thank you.
Thanks.
Perfect.
Any further questions? All right, with that, we'll let you go, Valerie.
Great.
Thank you so much
Have
for
a
the time.
wonderful
We
night and have
appreciate
a-
it.
Enjoy the rest of your
You
summer.
too. Thank you,
Have a
Valerie.
good evening. Nice
Appreciate
to
it.
see you.
All right, and next on our agenda are ordinances for public hearing and adoption. We have two tonight. Madam Clerk, if you please read the title of the first ordinance into the record, and then we'll open the public hearing.
15-23, an ordinance of the Township Committee of the Township of Morris, authorizing the purchase of that certain property known as Block 8602, Lot 10, in the Township of Morris County, County of Morris, State of New Jersey.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And I will ask, actually, Administrator Quinn, can you just provide another update for the public as to what the next two ordinances are? And then we will open the hearing.
Yes, sir, Mayor. As you know, the township is looking for office space primarily for our recreation department. For their facilities, we were able to locate a building in close proximity to this one that we thought would be a suitable, good location to move our Parks and Recreation Department. It's located at 4 Old Turnpike Road, just up the end of Old Glen Road, Decon Road, and goes through the back there along the railroad tracks. It also is right across the street from the property we attained, Prescott Field. It's an older house, and we feel that that would be a good location to be able to relocate our recreation department rather than spending the funds to put an addition on for this building.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn. Kudos to Bill Fulch for finding and identifying this opportunity for us and working with you, Tim and Jared and the rest of the team. And for those who don't know where that is, it's the old Cozy Cupboard building where the tea room was on Old Turnpike Road, right across from the carriage house. Right. So with that, we'll take comments from in-person attendees first and switch over to Zoom. If you're on Zoom, please raise your virtual hand to indicate you'd like to speak. With that, may I please have a motion to open the public hearing on ordinance 15-23?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any members of the public wishing to speak? Seeing none in person, seeing none online, is there a motion to close the public portion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any further discussion or questions from the committee? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Ms. Guariglia,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes. I, Mark Gyorfy, Mayor, declare ordinance number 15-23 approved and adopted and direct the Township Clerk to publish proper notice thereof in the official newspaper.
Madam, sorry, Madam Clerk, was there a motion and a second on that?
Yes, it was.
No, there wasn't a motion in a second.
Public meetings.
Sorry, Mayor, I think you need,
Yeah, I don't think we had a motion.
Motion to adopt.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
I did say that. I said, may I have a motion to adopt ordinance 15-23?
I believe you did say that.
Yeah.
Apologize.
Do we have, did you write it down?
Ravitz and Grayzel.
Mr. Ravitz and Mr. Grayzel. That's okay.
And who did the public hearing portion?
Ravitz and Donna.
Okay, sorry, Mayor.
That's okay. Better to do it now so we don't have to come back next week to fix it. Okay, Madam Clerk, if you please read the title of the second ordinance into the record.
16-23, bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements by the Township of Morris, appropriating the aggregated amount of $800,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $761,000 bonds or notes of the township to finance part of the cost thereof.
Again, we'll take comments from in-person attendees first and then follow up with Zoom. May I please have a motion to open the public hearing on ordinance number 16-23?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, anyone wishing to speak? Seeing none in person? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Lee Goldberg, 10 Arrowhead Road. For 1623, could you just, as you did for also 1523, just provide a little elaboration on what the various capital improvements might be? Or are they just allocating money for just general things that come up?
This is for the purchase of the property.
Oh, for the purchase of the property listed in 1523.
Correct. And then for some minor repairs. So the cost of the property is $700,000. certain,
Where am I going?
there's certain improvements and that kind of thing that need to be made, so. But the
Oh.
1623 is for the purchase of 1523.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. And although it's just in just a general question, I know in the past, I don't know if we've gotten away from it. Sometimes from when you're reading the agendas, we used to actually list the address of the property versus just sort of that certain property. I mean, if I had known, like, so, well, as you were describing 1523, I know at one point in time, there was a concept of perhaps putting the Parks and Rec building over at the old train master's house or train master's building, sort of abutting the 4 acres that we acquired from Honeywell. So as you were talking, I was thinking that's what we were talking about, acquiring that certain piece of property. But now as we go further into that, 4 is the one that was sort of bordering the Learning Academy and next door to it, that bill, that's the structure.
Right, we own the other piece of property you're talking about. We already own that, and we've done improvements to that building.
Yes, I've noticed some improvements being done. Is that
Right, but it's not large enough to house our Parks and Recreation Department.
so? Is that particular building sort of a blank slate for consideration of some potential future use that might be a benefit and value to the community? I mean, at some
Yes.
point, yeah, nothing's been decided on how that
No,
building will be
primarily it's small
appropriated.
classroom, things like that. It's not big enough to do anything much more than that.
Okay, very good. Well, that number 4, when that came on the market, having inquired about it myself, I see the sort of price had dropped. So that seems like they came down in price. So that's good. And that's a good spot for the rec department. And I was wondering what was going to be happening with that because it's in a good location. There's plenty of parking. So, and maybe there's an opportunity to do some other things on that site, community-based, et cetera. So thank you for the update.
Thank you, Mr. Goldberg. I think we're certainly happy with it. I'm sure our staff is as well. I hope the neighbors are, and I hope the residents will be too, because it'll be a very kind of seamless place for folks to go to for their parks and rec needs without having to worry about parking and things like that. All right. Any members of the public virtually wishing to speak or ask questions? Seeing none, is there a motion to close the public portion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. May I now please have a motion to adopt ordinance 16-23?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussions? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Ms. Gariglia,
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes. I, Mark Gyorfy, Mayor, declare ordinance number 16-23 approved and adopted and direct the Township Clerk to publish proper notice thereof in the official newspaper. We have one ordinance for introduction on tonight's agenda. I will be recusing myself from voting on this ordinance 17-23 due to my role in the fire department and request Deputy Mayor Ravitz to manage this vote.
Thank you, Mayor. Madam Clerk, please read the title of ordinance 1723 into the record.
Ordinance 1723, ordinance of the Township of Morris, Morris County, New Jersey, establishing salaries and compensation for employees of the Firemen's Mutual Benevolent Association, Local 70 of the Township of Morris.
Thank you. May I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 17-23?
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion or questions on this? Any members of the public, any members of the town committee? No?
No public
Okay.
commentary on this.
Unless we need to open up. No, we don't.
No
No.
public commentary on this.
Okay, Madam Clerk, then let's have a roll call.
Ms. Gariglia,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz.
Yes.
Mayor
I
Gyorfy.
recuse myself.
The public hearing and final consideration and adoption of ordinance number 17-23 will be held at the next regular Township Committee meeting on Wednesday, August 16th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Ravitz. Moving on to resolutions, we have 19 on tonight's agenda. I will be recusing myself from voting on 173-23, again, due to my role in the fire department, and will again request Deputy Mayor Ravitz to handle that motion and roll call. May I please first have a motion to approve resolutions 166-23 through 172-23 and 174-23 to 184-23 by one motion.
I'll move that. Second.
I have a couple questions before we vote. If that's okay?
Sure, can I just have all in favor on voting by one motion on those?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Grayzel.
Thank you. On 172, the installation of the basketball court, is that where the old smokehouse was?
Yes, sir, it is.
And is it just going to be a basketball court? Is there any stands, anything else going around it? Just a,
Just the basketball court, sir.
is there a fence around it? Or just,
Not- I don't believe there is.
no, so just the posts and painted lines?
That is my understanding.
Okay. Very good. And are there any lights associated with that?
No, sir, there's not.
Very good. Next question is on 183. So it says positions created by statute, but it looks like it's just an appointment of somebody to an existing unexpired term.
It's created by statute or by ordinance. It's created by statute or ordinance is the way it's written.
That's just the heading is just because it's the way it's written, even though it's filling an unexpired, it looks like it's filling an unexpired term. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
But that's the language you always use.
That's the language you always use. Okay. I just got confused by the title because I looked at the substance of the resolution. Just
No,
want to make
when
sure,
we have our-
just want to make sure there wasn't a mismatch. That's all.
No, just when we do our reorg and everything else, that's the language you use. And then
Very good.
for subsequent appointments, we use the same language.
Okay. Those are the only two questions I have on those ordinances.
Thank you, Mr. Grayzel. Any further questions or comments? Madam Clerk, hearing none, may I please have a roll call?
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Guariglia,
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes,
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes. All right, I will turn it over to Deputy Mayor Ravitz.
thank you, Mayor. May I have a motion to approve resolution number 173-23?
So moved. Second.
I have a question. Can I ask what the purpose is of purchasing this piece of equipment? Is it replacing something?
We're not purchasing. Thank you, Joe. We're not purchasing. We are replacing, or we're doing the refurb of one of our older fire trucks to extend its life expectancy.
Because it looks like it's for the purchase of one.
Did you get the
It's not-
updated agenda?
It's not for the refurbishment. Okay. Looks like.
We
That should have been updated
that
from
should-
yesterday.
I think that was, I don't know.
It
That was the
is.
original. There's an
It's
updated
updated.
one.
Yeah, we had
It's a little
updated the
more clear.
language.
It's more clear?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You
The one-
had,
No, this is the one that was put on my desk. It says refurbish.
We did update the language and what
Okay.
we're voting on
It
is
is.
not.
Yeah, no,
it's clear,
the
clarified.
one that's in our packet is the old one.
So what's the title of the updated one?
it's a refurb rather than a purchase.
Yeah, just take purchase out.
Okay.
I'll see what I have.
And then if you go
So how old is this piece? of-
2007.
2007,
2007. And what's the normal lifespan of this piece of equipment?
usually they're about 20 years.
And this will extend it for how many more years?
We're hoping at least another 10 years.
Very good.
That'd be it.
Thank you.
All set?
All set.
Madam Clerk, may I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Guariglia,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz.
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
I recuse myself.
All right, back to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Ravitz. Moving on the agenda, we have 4 items on the consent calendar this evening. May I please have a motion to approve the items on the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Consideration of monthly reports. We have received reports for the fire department for May 2023, and reports for the joint court, tax collector, police department, and the joint municipal library for June 2023. May I please have a motion to approve the monthly reports?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Our claims for payment for the evening. The total amount of bills and vouchers for this meeting is $9,877,010.85. As a reminder to the public, we are the tax collector for the school district, the library, and the county of Morris. May I please have a motion to approve the list of bills and vouchers?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Ms. Guariglia,
Yes.
Mayor Gyorfy.
Yes. We do not have any items received for the record, so we will now move on to standing committee reports and commentary by the members of the Township Committee. So with that, I will recognize Committeewoman Guariglia.
Thank you, Mayor. On my committee reports on the Economic Development Advisory Committee, Chair Liam Gallagher's presentation was moved to August 16th, and that will be on the Madison Avenue corridor. Tax Assessor Kathy Viarango supplied us with a list of current tenants in the township. We do have some outdated vacancies, and that list will be updated. Also, at the EDAC meeting, we discussed empty office space and subleases. The marketplace continues to have more businesses open, so please try to visit over there. We did hear some concerns a little bit about parking, but so far we seem to be doing okay, and we'll address those if as more businesses open up, we see that there's a problem there. On the Transportation Advisory Committee, we did have the Jockey Hollow Walk. However, it was raining that day, so it was a very low turnout. We had a discussion about wayfinding signs and trying to provide more of those. And we also were made aware that we do have some trails that need to be cleaned out a little bit more. The next couple things coming up under the Morris Township in Motion are July 30th. There's a bike ride, which is in collaboration with the Historic Preservation. And there'll be sites along there. And we're also planning on doing that later on at the end of the summer, beginning of the fall, on a walking tour as well. August 12th is the Evergreen Cemetery Walk. And on August 24th, there'll be a senior walk at 4:30 at Patriots Path. And we do hope that we'll get some seniors out to do that walk. It's on a very flat surface, and we made sure that it's not too long. We continue to improve ways to get our information out and how to use our social media better so that we can get more people to these events. We then had Andy Feldman on TAC give a bus shelter proposal presentation. New Jersey Transit would pay for the bus shelters, and the state and county would maintain the ones that are on state and county roads. We're looking into the cost. We have to check the locations and the site distance and those types of things as to where the benches would be placed. There would be a bench, and also over the bench, there would be a shelter, a covered shelter. We do have a slide presentation that Andy did that we can make available. If anybody's interested, they can contact us. Complete Streets will have an update in September, and we had a discussion on continued mapping. We may need a GIS, which is a Geographic Information System specialist, for guidance on layering data tied to geographic points. GIS systems are very complex, but we are looking into doing, having some continued mapping. As far as my comments, the summer activities have continued with some cancellations due to rain, but overall the township has been very busy, and anyone looking for things to do, we certainly have a lot available. Information goes out through the municipal messenger, so please take advantage of all the things that are going on. I would like to thank Valerie Dolan, who did tonight's audit presentation. The township is in good financial shape, thanks to the hard work of our administrator, our finance department, and all the department heads. With all the infrastructure improvements going on, we're keeping with our theme of Morris Township in Motion by providing more connections all around town. It's great to see a lot of the new sidewalks getting completed, and they're filled with people out and about, which is nice to see. So continue to enjoy your summer. Always provide feedback on what we're doing well, along with any township concerns you have. And before long, Labor Day will be approaching, so relax while you can. And if you didn't have a hot dog today to celebrate National Hot Dog Day, you still have time to throw one on the grill and have a cold beverage to celebrate. Thank you.
Thank you, Committeewoman Guariglia. Committeeman Grayzel.
Great. Before I start, can I ask Donna a question? You mentioned an issue about parking at the Marketplace Mall. Where did that come in from?
That came in from just a couple residents when I was over there, and just concerns about when it's all filled.
Oh, so it's not a current concern about, because with all the stores,
Yeah, no,
half the stores open, I can't imagine there's any
No, it's
parking
once
issues.
they're open, once they're all open, and right now it's pretty easy to get in and out of there, and there's plenty of spaces available, but when it's all open.
Got it. Thank you very much. So for my commentary, as chair of the Police Standing Committee, I just wanted to congratulate Patrol Officer Tsakouris and Patrol Officer Nelson on their permanent appointments to our police department upon reaching their 1-year anniversaries. We just passed 2 items on the consent calendar tonight to recognize that. For the sewer standing committees, I also wanted to point out another resolution tonight, which progresses that important clarifier project at the Woodland Sewer Plant that we were talking about earlier tonight. That's the emergency project that's going on there. We awarded the engineering services tonight, so we're moving that project along expeditiously. For engineering, I also am pleased with the pace of the sidewalk construction on Sussex Avenue. Tim, do you have a projection on when that'll be done, the whole length?
They're just about done with Sussex Avenue. They got a couple tight spots that they got to finish up by Cornline Field, and they're currently working now for the turnaround and the handicap parking off Indermere Road and the sidewalk there. So I would think probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks that project will finish up.
Great. It's just a wonderful infrastructure improvement for our town that provides so much connectivity because it connects to Patriots Path. Anybody coming along Patriots Path now can ride their bike all the way to the pool, which is in tennis courts, Cornline Field. It's just a tremendous improvement for our town.
And just, we also have another project associated with that work, and that's the Woodland Avenue sidewalk connection between Old Glen Road and the municipal building.
Mm-hmm.
And so that'll start once they complete Sussex.
Great. And that'll connect people to our facility here and across the street. Also under engineering, we had a Walnut Street pre-construction meeting, and the contract is being awarded. Contract is awarded.
I have the contract for the mayor to sign before we finish tonight. Once we have the contract in place, then we'll establish the date for the pre-construction meeting and see when they'll be authorized to proceed.
Very good. And last additional comment to the Transportation Advisory Committee on top of what Committeewoman Guariglia already informed us of about the bus shelters. We had a really interesting discussion about the bus routes themselves, because even I don't know where the buses run in Morris Township. So it's part of this mapping project that we're going to be working on, not just the connectivity of the trails and the sidewalks and all that kind of stuff, but we're going to put on the map the bus routes to let people know how they can, for example, get to the train station by hopping on a bus, because there are a couple buses that go to the train station. So again, trying to get people out of their cars and onto their feet and other modes of transportation. That's what we're moving towards in terms of a mapping project that we'll be sharing with the community, probably not by the end of this year, but certainly next year is my hope. And for general commentary, I actually have nothing to say other than enjoy the rest of your summer.
Thank you, Mr. Grayzel. Deputy Mayor Wilson.
Thank you. On my Environment Standing Committee, as always, many activities and plans in the works. I'm going to highlight 3. We are developing a wonderful partnership with the Great Swamp. Our latest activity with them was having a presence at their music festival on June 25th. The event did end up getting rained out, but we squeezed a lot of good outreach in with the public before then. An ironic benefit of this rainout for us was learning firsthand from the Great Swamp's own prior experience what constitutes a good canopy for an outdoor event. The canopy they provided was really sturdy and a big step up from our existing equipment, and it was a timely insight for us regarding what to shoot for as we purchase new equipment as part of our Sustainable Jersey grant. So it was a good example of what I call cross-pollination in action. Speaking of our Sustainable Jersey grant, before making purchases as part of what we've nicknamed our tool chest grant, an important first step has been to update our EC's logo. Thanks to Barbara Buda for taking the lead and working with Virginia Murphy on this. Approval of a new logo is in its final stages. Once approved, we'll be ready to purchase all the new equipment and materials this grant provides, such as a canopy, banner, signage, and professionally designed brochures. I want to say special thanks to Barbara Buda and Hart Coven for all their work on writing and implementing this grant. The goal is to get all the new equipment purchased in time for the next big community outreach event, which will be the Fall Festival, coming up on Sunday, October 1st. So mark your calendar. A brief word about the possibility of establishing a shade tree commission. As you may know, there's been a lot of discussion for many years about the value of having a shade tree commission and questions about why, unlike so many of our neighbors, Morris Township does not have one. Neighboring towns that do have shade tree commissions or a close variation thereof include Madison, Chatham Township, Chatham Borough, Harding, Hanover, Mendham Township, Mendham Borough, and Mountain Lakes. I'm pleased to report that our EC, with the approval of several township committee members, has decided to move this conversation forward in a more direct and formalized way. Plans are underway for a group of EC members to do research on such topics as the costs, benefits, requirements, and logistics of establishing a shade tree commission, and to compile in one place, in the form of a written report, a more complete picture of the information that's needed to make an informed decision on whether a shade tree commission is or is not something we want to pursue. This report, when complete, will be shared with our professionals as well as the Township Committee. By providing a common set of new information for reference by all, this report will take our consideration of this long-standing issue to a whole new level. I'm glad our EC is taking this step, and I look forward to considering the results of their work. On the Seniors Committee, the full committee, CCAC, will be meeting next Monday, July 24th, from 3 to 4:30 in person in Town Hall or by Zoom. I encourage everyone who's interested in issues that impact our seniors to attend. The two main agenda topics will be the upcoming focus group session, with the public, which will take place on Thursday, October 10th from 2 to 4 p.m. It'll be in person at Town Hall, not by Zoom. And the second agenda item will be the content we're about to begin uploading to the township's website. The purpose of the October 10th focus group session is to give residents another opportunity to have input into shaping recommendations for meeting the needs of our seniors. At Monday's meeting, we'll finalize the questions and discussion format and turn our attention to logistics, outreach, and publicity. The website committee has made good progress. We've shared our proposed content with our administrator, Mr. Quinn. Remains to be shared with Mr. Gyorfy. A meeting has been set for August 9th to begin uploading approved content to the township's website. Between now and then, we're waiting on the input from our attorney, Mr. Cantor, on language that explains what we're calling our redirect approach. This will work like this. When someone clicks on a link to a website that's not a government or a university source, they'll get a message that says, you're leaving our website, and then something to the effect of, you're about to visit an external website that we're including here for convenience and reference only, and not for the purpose of endorsement. So crafting the exact wording we'll use here is where Mr. Cantor we're asking for you to weigh in. We found this redirect idea on Hanover's website. This is the approach they use on the seniors portion of their website. In a spirit of imitation is the highest form of flattery. Kudos to them for coming up with this idea. I think it's a great idea. And thanks to CCAC member Mary Vole for finding the approach and bringing it to our attention. On my township committee comments, I want to welcome Karen Seidman, who's our newest associate member of the Environmental Commission. Her passion is invasives. She attended last week's EC meeting and is already hooked up with our invasives group. So we look forward to welcoming her on board. I'd also like to highlight, I believe one of our resolutions was that we're renewing our contract with Grow It Green for the farmers market, correct? I was glad to see that. I think that's a great community event. It'll go December 23 through April 24 at Convent Station, and I'm really glad we're doing that. Congratulations, to reiterate what Mr. Grayzel said, to Taylor Nelson and Panagiotis Sikoris on their permanent appointments as officers in our police department, also to Kyle Meyer for his permanent appointment as a firefighter. I'd like to say a special word of thanks and congratulations to Lieutenant Heather Glockovich, who's leaving our police department in August to take a position elsewhere. I have always admired Heather's work with the Citizen Police Academy, her skill and dedication in managing the department's social media presence, her accomplishments as a skilled practitioner of community policing, and her passion as an advocate of legislation that promotes women's equality in the workplace. I want to thank Lieutenant Glockovich for your many contributions to our department and to our community. You will be missed, and all best wishes to you in the next chapter of your career. I wanted to mention that I love that we're being proactive in announcing our support for the Revolution New Jersey initiative. That was one of our resolutions. That the purpose of this initiative is to plan how we're going to celebrate the 250th anniversary of our nation's founding coming up in a couple of years, and particularly the pivotal role New Jersey played in shaping the outcome of the Revolutionary War. I also love this initiative's emphasis on advancing, and this is a quote from the resolution, the role that history plays in public discourse, community engagement, education, tourism, and scholarship in New Jersey. I think this is a great initiative, and you can count me in as a huge supporter. And finally, I want to just say that I love the concerts and the movies that our Parks and Recreation Department is offering. It's a great way to spend a summer evening. Huge thanks to Bill Falsh and Alexi Voley and everyone else on Parks and Rec who puts in a lot of extra hours to make this happen. It's really a wonderful community event, and I've appreciated the opportunity this year. I've been able to go more than I had last year, and I'm really enjoying it. So thanks to our Parks and Rec Department for offering that. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Wilson, I just want to say, when we had that short break, I sent you some disclaimer language for the
Okay,
redirect.
great.
So once you review it, if it's okay, it's legally sufficient.
Okay, so we'll look at that, and then we gotta forward it on to the others.
Thank you.
Thank you for following the rules of only using electronic devices for township business during the meeting.
Mayor, I said between closed and open.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll check the
And
timestamp
it's
on that one.
attorney-client privilege,
All right.
Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Ravitz, thank you, Mrs. Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening to everybody, and thank you for your participation in our local community government. National politics may get all the spotlight, but typically it's what we do here locally that has the biggest economic impact and quality of life impact in our lives. I'm going to be brief tonight, really just a quick Parks and Rec nod. I hope everybody's enjoying all that the Morris Township has to offer with regards to our Parks and Rec summer programs. Please do visit the Parks and Rec website to get the latest in summer activities for families and kids of all ages. And the fire department, we just welcome back into service a newly refurbished fire pumper that gives the township's bravest many years of additional service. For my public commentary tonight will also be short. It'll just be something that I found that's worth sharing as it just recently happened. As we all know, a major Fox personality was dismissed earlier this year, and the time slot he used to occupy is now being filled by another Fox personality. On his inaugural show, his mom called in live to speak with her son on air. Moms are great that way, especially when they are so proud of their child's accomplishments. None of us knows if this segment was planned in advance, and if so, who knew about it, or whether it was spontaneous. What nobody expected to hear was how she explained to him how best to keep his job. She suggested he not go down conspiracy rabbit holes because she doesn't want to distance herself from him or be involved in any lawsuits. She advised him to do no harm and to be kind. He should use his voice responsibly. Stop Biden bashing and laptop nonsense. Also, stop worrying about other people's bodies. There's more to it, but I think you get the idea. In my humble opinion, his mom needs her own prime time slot. Is Fox or the new host setting a gentler tone for this spot? Just asking a question. We'll all have to wait and find out. And the reason I speak about this particular story is that it relates to what I say at the end of my public commentary each month. Morris Township is a culturally diverse community. We grow and learn from each other in order to be better and do better. Let's not marginalize or demonize the people who have less political or economic power that some of us now enjoy. Rather, let's face up to and stand up to those who continue to profit from our division. Equal rights for all citizens doesn't diminish the rights of any other citizen. We have more in common than should ever divide us, but we have to talk to each other and not at each other. Amplifying misinformation, hateful or violent rhetoric is not part of any civil society. And lastly, let's just remember as we go about our business each day to be kind. Just like this person's mom had said on the air, kind to ourselves and kind to others, because kindness has a rippling effect. Mayor?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Ravitz. To echo everyone else, I did want to thank Bill Fulch and the Parks and Rec team for all the great work they're doing this summer with all the programming. As I said earlier, also the acquisition of the old Turnpike Road property was a creative solution to the needs that Bill's department needed here, and it's going to save the township a lot of money in the long run from having to expand our footprint here at Town Hall. So thank you for all that work. This is exciting. We'll definitely have a more formal announcement later in the summer and fall for our residents to communicate that acquisition. As folks talked about the movie nights and the concerts, I did just want to highlight July 20th. There's upcoming movie nights, July 22nd at Ginty, August 17th at the Collinsville Playground, and then the final one on August 26th at Ginty. And also there is a summer concert at Collinsville Playground scheduled for this Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. In the Collinsville Playground. As Mr. Grayzel mentioned too, and Mrs. Guariglia mentioned too, with all the work going on this summer as part of the engineering committee, I'm really impressed with the amount of how quickly our contractors are in doing the sidewalk project on Sussex Avenue. Really happy to see Normandy Parkway finally paved and nearly complete. And like you said, every time I drive down Normandy Parkway, there's always people walking or running on that sidewalk. And I know this committee stood its ground on putting that sidewalk in on that street, and it was absolutely worth it. So I'm really happy to see the neighbors really enjoying that sidewalk. The only other thing that I did mention last month and wanted to mention again, in between, we did have a formal announcement on our Hometown Heroes project here in Morris Township to honor our veterans in the months of November and May for Veterans Day and Memorial Day. So applications are now open for residents to purchase a veteran for a Morris Township resident who served in our military, whether they're living or deceased. And there's also an application for folks to sponsor banners for folks who may not be able to afford them for their loved one or a friend. So that information is on our website. It's on our Facebook page and Instagram page as well. Really excited to be working with the American Legion Post 59 here in Morristown, as well as the Daughters of the American Revolution to see this project through. And if you haven't seen it before, Morris Plains has done it. Other towns have done it. We'll be putting them on our streetlights here near the municipal building and on other municipal properties. So I'm encouraged to see that we have started getting applications already. We've gotten some applications. I know some fire companies are also going to be honoring their members through this program as well. So really excited to see the progress on this and looking forward to seeing the banners go up later this fall. So
Does this project have a name?
the Hometown Heroes project, Hometown Heroes, Morris Township's Hometown Heroes. Yeah. So, and it was sent out on the municipal messenger too, but you can always find all the information on our website. With that, I will turn it over to our final.
Mr. Mayor,
public
could I just make one comment also on something you said?
Sure.
I just wanted to thank you for your leadership on the Normandy Parkway sidewalk project. The mayor always takes the brunt of criticism that comes in on any I don't want to call it a controversial project, but a lot of people don't like things built in their backyard. And
Or front yard.
while we all stood our ground, you really were at the front standing the ground. And Thank you. And I think it's another good benefit for our community, making connectivity as we've talked about endlessly. But thank you for your leadership on that project.
Thank you, Mr. Grayzel. Okay, with that, we currently have 6 members of the public with us online, along with members of the public here in person. We'll open the second public comment portion to general commentary. Please raise your hand virtually on Zoom if you'd like to speak. Please state your name and address for the record, and please note comments are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. May I please have a motion to open the second public portion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone in person? Seeing none. Anyone online? We'll go in person. Yeah, you can come up.
Lee Goldberg, 10 Arrowhead Road. I know there's an initial public commentary, and I'm sorry I'm a little rusty of when to ask what about what, but I just want to go back to 170-23 resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement by and between the Township of Morris and Conifer Realty. What is that in reference to? Is that also tied to the Old Turnpike Road, or?
That is survey work for a potential affordable housing project.
Survey work for a potential affordable housing project. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Just that one, seeking a couple of updates on a couple of projects that have been discussed at this body in the past. If there's no update, that's fine as well. But if there is anything that can be shared with the public, that would be great. The first is on the topic of the proposed design and engineering phase of the ramp off of 24 onto Park Avenue. Has there any update from the county on that? Has that engineering work begun or design work begun? Anything that's known there, or was that best pursued with the county?
Yeah, you can go.
As you know, the county's doing it, and the North Jersey Transportation is handling the project, and it's in their hands right now.
So the design is the design phase is in their hands right now, but has anything been initiated with that, or?
They
Just that it's in
received the funding. They have the funding to start that process, and they said it's
Okay.
going to take years.
Okay, so
That's
they've gotten the
pretty much all we
funding.
got. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, NJTPA funded the
Right.
project.
Did fund the project.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you. I know Ms. Guariglia had mentioned the Madison Avenue corridor in some of her comments. So there's a couple of things that have been going on up there recently. And the restoration hardware project, I know the fencing is up and they seem to have gotten off to a quick start. Is that stalled? There doesn't really seem to be a lot of activity. Is there any update on when that might start to, see
Yeah.
things?
Yep.
move
And
forward?
this member may have the same question too, because we followed up with her last month, but
Oh.
they changed their contractors. So they went back out to bid and got a new contractor. They expect work to start this September, I believe.
Okay,
Start
thank
back
you.
up. Yeah.
That
We
explains
were
it.
concerned too.
Yeah,
but they
you
got a
just
new
never know
contractor.
sometimes, but thank you for that update. That's helpful.
Yep.
Also, there were some recent approvals. The applicants were successful in obtaining to be able to redevelop the other portion of the school on Madison Ave into a Starbucks, and then the old, I believe, TD Bank will be becoming a Dunkin' Donuts. So there will, those applicants came forward. The projects were approved. They were very respectful at the zoning board. The projects look great, and that I think will be a benefit for a lot of folks that are using the traction line, and they were very willing to make accommodations to allow more bicyclists to come in there and do all kinds of things. So that's going to be changing that stretch of road as well. And then the also was brought up, which was interesting. Boy, this has been a very action-packed hour. Also was brought up as interesting something about the bus stops and benches. Now, if you may probably already be aware, but there was a fatality earlier this year up on 1 Whippany Road where there's a bus. There is a bus stop right there, but there's really no place that's really demarked as a bus stop. So I'm not sure if that is on the radar of being a spot that could really potentially use some improvement, especially with the new daycare center that's going up there. There may be employees and things. So if that's not on your radar, I think it's definitely a spot that needs attention, in my opinion. And
Excellent suggestion. Thank you.
We'll make sure to include it.
Yeah.
yes, in case, because I know there's a lot of, it's hard to know everything that's going
And the
on.
hotel's across the street too.
Correct. Yeah. So, and there is correct. It's a pretty, it's an intense intersection. So thank you for that. The 4 acres that is on the backside by Con Road there that we've acquired, I mean, it's a big green open field space right now. It's a phenomenal space. You know, as I go by it and walk through there and jog through there, always thinking of creative things that could be done there. I'm not sure if there's anything on the table, or they're still looking for ideas, or when something might be sort of move forward on that track over the next year or two, or
I believe right now they're firming up the turf and they need to allow it time for the grass to actually root.
Still
They
root.
can't allow, if they start using the field too soon, the turf's just going to rip up and turn to mud. So I know, and there's no sprinkler system there. So I know the parks division it's been a challenge for them, but I know that their intent right now is to get that grass established so that it can be used as a playing field.
okay.
And like I got hopefully next year, I think.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for that. That's really about it. I just want to, I appreciated the comments of the audit report. Congratulations on having no anomalies or deficiencies or corrective actions needed. It's a testament. I think that was said earlier to the way good government practices are run here. So to get sequentially year after year, no anomalies, no defects, it's quite an accomplishment. So congratulations on that. And thank you for all you do on behalf of us all to get that, keeping that trend going. And then that's really all I have. So I appreciate it. Thanks for your
Thank
service.
you, Mr. Goldberg.
Yeah, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us.
And I see Ms. Marlene Memmer's hand raised on Zoom, so we will recognize her for the next comment.
Good evening, Marlene Memmer, Independence Way. I apologize, I did not get Mr. Goldberg's first comment, but my question was on the resolution 17023. It recorded block 1901, lots 1 to 1.01. Where is that exactly located?
Which resolution?
170-23.
Conifer, that's
It's on Ketch Road off West Hanover Avenue.
so Marlene, where Morris Muse is, and the other ARC housing over there too. It's that area by the Ketch Road field.
Ketch Road Field. Okay, thank you very much. And the other one was on resolutions, and looking for the resolutions, I was just reading through them, and I'm not questioning anything about the maintenance bond, but I just was wondering where the brownstones were and where Howland Terrace is. I don't see that on the map that I have.
It's right around the corner from you.
Right
Old
around the
Turnpike.
corner from me. Oh,
Yep, it's right there by the intersection of Old Turnpike and Punch Bowl Road.
I'll have to look for it. Thank you very much. That's what my questions were for tonight. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
You too. Thanks, Ms. Memmer. Seeing no further members of the public wishing to comment, is there a motion to close the second public portion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The time is now 8:08 p.m. There's nothing else left to do but to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn the regular session?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The next regular Township Committee meeting will be held on Wednesday, August 16th, 2023 at 7 p.m. in person and via Zoom. Closed session will start at 5 p.m. Have a great evening, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your summer until we get back here in August.